So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Christian Women Empowerment segment. This is your host, of course, Ms. Diane Winbush. And of course, we are here to be able to continue to impact you with impeccable women so they can be able to share their lifestyle with you. And so you can be able to come out of the diagram of the pews. And so that's the reason why I have these shows for women, because sometimes women, we supposed to wear the long dresses. No, you don't. Or we supposed to, we can't have no money. We can't have no success. Success, that's people for pride. No, it's not. It's for God. God told us that we can have those things. And so that's the reason why I try to bring leveled women that have already had some experience in some areas to be able to help you. Women that are pastors, women that are ministers, women that are not pastors, but they have gone down through the ropes that you are trying to go through. And so that's the purpose of women empowerment. So today we're going to be talking about Daniel fasting, something that we do not like to do. We don't like to push back the plate, but the purification of the Daniel fasting will be able to help you. So to be able to help me as well as myself, because I don't understand everything about Daniel fasting, but I just got through reading Daniel this morning about the fasting. And to be able to help us, we have two wonderful guests that'll be able to help us understand a little bit more about the nutrition of our body and how we can be able to stay genuine and pure in our body. So welcome to the broadcast, Gigi Carter and also Sersie Blue. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for being our guest. So we're going to start with Sersie. We're going to let you be able to share with the audience a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you and why you wanted to be able to get into nutrition.
Well, okay, I'll start with my story. Well, my name is Sersie. I'm a faith-based health coach. And for me, it started off in the last trimester of my pregnancy. I was actually diagnosed with high blood pressure. And so at the time, I didn't really know the impact. My mom had high blood pressure. My grandmother had high blood pressure. So I didn't realize the significance during pregnancy. And so what I know now is that women who have high blood pressure during pregnancy have a higher chance of having some type of complication before, during, or after their delivery. And it's even higher for African-American women. And so I was in that situation, and I actually had a complication in my delivery, and my son lost oxygen to his brain. And so he was airlifted out, and he had a lot of complications because he wasn't able to suck and drink on his own. So he had 24-hour care. And so you could imagine it's a whirlwind of an experience. And he ended up passing away at the age of 1. And as you can know, that's, every time I talk about it, it still, wrecks my heart. But he passed away at the age of 1. And as you can imagine, any mom, any family, we were devastated. You're at the lowest point of your life. Emotionally, spiritually, you still have the support, but you're trying to work through all of that grief. And so in the middle of all of that, I had gained the most weight. I was, I was praying, I had friends, I had family, but I wasn't as clear spiritually and all of that. And so one day, just out of the blue, a friend of mine said to me, hey, why don't we do the Daniel fast together? And I have done the Daniel fast before. I know, I've been in the church. I've done the Daniel fast. I've tweaked it to my liking. I fell off the wagon. I did all of that. And so when she said, let's do the Daniel fast, I was a little apprehensive because I felt like I wasn't in the mood to really get so restrictive. And she said, and I said, well, I'm going to add this and I'm going to add that. And she just arrested me in the moment. She said, listen, if you're going to do this fast, you're going to have to do it exactly the way it's designed. And for some reason that resonated with me. In that moment, I just felt like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so we did the Daniel fast together. For 30 days. I did it exactly the way it was designed. And for those of you who are not familiar, I'm sure a lot of people are, a Daniel fast is basically a whole food plant-based diet. So you're eliminating all meats, all dairy, all processed foods, all things that have sugars and any additives. So you're eating a very clean, pure, whole food plant-based diet. And so that's what I jumped into with my friend. And guys, within no word of a lie, within 30 days, it could have been 15, it could have been 20, it's all a blur to me. My blood pressure was regulated. I lost weight. I had mental and spiritual clarity. My depression was gone. I could see clearly. And I couldn't understand what happened here because
Wow.
I was with my family. I was praying. I was, getting counseling. I was doing all the things that we do in the middle of grief, but I wasn't over that hump. And it wasn't until I was praying, reading my scripture, doing everything there, and I changed what was on the end of my fork. And once I combined those two things, my life changed, and I couldn't understand it. I said, God, am I a miracle? Am I an anomaly? What is going on? And so as I started to research and dig deeper into the life of Daniel and the wonderful life that he lived when he drew a line in the sand. And then when I started to look at the science and the current research, and I realized that, wait a minute, a whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that has ever been documented to reverse, prevent, and manage heart disease, which is the #1 killer in America. Not only that, weight loss, diabetes, and you name it, cancer prevention, you name it, any chronic illness that is here on the planet, a plant-based diet resolves that. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So I wasn't an anomaly. I wasn't a coincidence. I wasn't a fluke. This was God's design. And I hit it. And so from there, I had just been passionate to say, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to helping women connect their faith to their food so that they can not only revolutionize their health, but tap into their ultimate purpose. Because what happened to me was not only did I get healthy, not only did I come over my grief, but I tapped into the ultimate will of God for my life. And I was able to do it on the highest frequency that I've ever done in my life. And so I realized, wait a minute, there's something here more. This is not just your church's Daniel fast. This is about changing your entire life.
Right, right. Now, see, you got me want to cut a step off of that right there. I'm serious. You want me to cut a step off of that right there? Because, before we get to you, Gigi, Sersie, when I was, at the first of the year, all of the churches, and so, it's just one thing that she said that was so remarkable, this apostle, she said, don't eat any meat. She said it distorts the relation. It's something that distorts between the communication between the person and God. I'm like, what? She said, don't eat the meat. She said, stay away from the meat. She was telling all of us, it was about 3,000 or 4,000 people on the call, and she was like, don't eat any meat. And I'm like, wow. So now you have brought in this revelation that can be able to also impact us even the more, so we can be able to drop these high blood pressure pills.
And just like what your pastor said, a lot of times we put this in the context of a 30-day fast. But the question is, if the meat is and all of the junk that we're putting in our body is breaking the communication, why are we going back after 30 days? We don't want communication for the rest of our lives, or what's going on here? And so that's one of the things that Gigi and I break down, but I'll push it to Gigi.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So Gigi, come on, to let us know a little bit about you and the purpose of the nutrition, and then we're going to also get into the plant-based, to something else that you have also. This is wonderful. I'm excited.
Thanks, Diane. Yeah, so my story actually starts back in 2007 when I was diagnosed with high cholesterol. I went for a routine wellness exam with my physician, and he did both a lipid panel and then a carotid artery scan, which is basically an ultrasound of your neck, and it shows the plaque that's forming in your arteries. And what that does is it shows you and the physician your risk of either heart attack or stroke. And so he told me, he said, you know what, Gigi, I know you're 35, but you have the arteries of a 46-year-old and your cholesterol's high, and I want to put you on a statin drug. And I remember thinking, wait, I'm only 35. I thought, people in their 60s and 70s took those kind of drugs, not people in their 30s.
Okay.
And I said, no, thank you. I politely refused. And I basically just said, I knew I wasn't taking the best care of myself. I was not eating the right foods. It wasn't necessarily eating fast foods, but I was eating a lot of rich foods, like a lot of meats and cheese and all of that. And so I basically around the same time learned about the work of Dr. Dean Ornish. And Dr. Dean Ornish is kind of like the godfather of lifestyle medicine, who showed through empirical studies that you could reverse heart disease without medication just by changing your diet to a whole food plant-based diet and some other lifestyle techniques. And so when I learned about this, I also said, wow, you mean no more cheese, no more fish, no more this, no more that? I was like, I don't know if I can get with that, but I knew I needed to do something. So I basically just said, I'm gonna, look to the USDA based, the guidelines that the federal government sets out, that was also being followed by my company, my corporate wellness kind of organization. So I, basically changed to more poultry, more fish, less red meat, low fat dairy, that kind of thing. Okay. And so my cholesterol levels went from like horrible to borderline bad and stayed there for about 5 years. In 2011, I was 40 years old, and I was noticing, it kind of started actually in my late 30s, but got even worse by the time I turned 40, that my energy levels were down. And no matter, how much coffee I drank, how many, packages of cookies I would eat to get the sugar fix, my energy was just horrible. And so a friend of mine was experimenting with this lemonade cleanse that Beyonce did when she was getting ready for Dreamgirls. And it's basically this concoction of like maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and lemon juice. And you're supposed to do it for 10 days. I only lasted for like 5 days. And I did that. And then I decided to, stop it early and then transition back. And so the protocol for transitioning back to your normal diet is to basically just have like vegetable broth, raw vegetables and fruits for like a couple days before you go back to your, so-called healthy diet. Mm-hmm. And I basically did that a few times over and realized that I felt best, not when I was doing the cleanse, not when I was eating my so-called healthy diet, but when I was in that transition period of just eating vegetables and fruits. Mm-hmm. That's when I felt my best. And so I came back my husband and I went on a vacation, New Year's 2012, and I came back. And I made the decision that I was going to transition to a vegetarian diet. And at this point, I basically said, I still can't live without cheese. It was kind of like cheese was my hang up. Right. And so over the course of, and what I now know is that it's addictive. So, but we'll come back to that in a moment. What happened was over the course of about 6 months, I made just a very conscious decision that I was going to just eat vegetarian twice a week, like 2 days out of the week. Okay. And then I increased it to 3 days and then 4 days. And so by the time June rolled around of 2012, I was basically full on vegetarian. Mm-hmm. I was vegetarian for 1 month. Okay. And then in July 2012, I watched a couple documentaries back to back, and I remembered walking into the kitchen that weekend, and one was called Earthlings, the other one was called Forks Over Knives. And I walked into the kitchen and my husband was sitting there at the counter. I said, honey, I'm going vegan. And to my surprise and delight, he said, okay, I'll do it too. Oh, and wow. So this was almost 10 years ago. And I've been basically whole food, plant-based vegan ever since. And what happened to me was life-changing. Similar to Sersie, I just gained this spiritual, mental clarity that I'd never had before. Mm-hmm. Despite, all those days and nights and weeks, praying and everything. It was just kind of like I would pray, but it would just like go into this vapor, like, right. I'd be praying, but I never heard anything. Mm-hmm. And so I gained all this energy. I got this mental and spiritual clarity. I actually started bike racing at the age of 42. Okay. And I'm still bike racing. I'm 50 and I'm still bike racing. Okay. And I also made the decision to leave my corporate career after 22 years to go back to school to earn a master's in nutrition sciences from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And I too have dedicated my life to helping women take control of their health, because for me, what that clarity did was it set me on a new career path. You know, it was through prayer and meditation and hearing God's voice. And it had everything to do with me just changing what was on the end of my fork. The quality of my life just increased exponentially. I mean, here I was, it took me 5 years to make this change, right?
Wow.
And I knew about, you know, the work from Dr. Dean Ornish when I was first diagnosed, but it took me 5 years to make the change. And I look back and I said, well, why didn't I do that? Why was I so stubborn? And it was all founded on this limiting belief that I had in my head, that I couldn't live without cheese, that I couldn't live without meat or fish or whatever. And that not eating those products would lower the quality of my life. I had this mentality of it was restrictive, when in fact, when you make this change, you are opened up to a whole new world of foods and seasonings and spices that I just never even knew about before, because I was, you know, in a rut eating my chicken salads and my, you know, my grilled cheese sandwiches or cheese pizzas or whatever. And it was transformative, like completely transformative in a great way. And so, yeah. So that's my story.
So, and thank you for that. So we're going to start with Sersie. So it was something that Gigi kind of touched on a little bit. You know, sometimes when we are trying to break away from the traditional way of eating and the traditional way of doing things, sometimes we can stir, you know, back to the same thing that we were doing before. So here's the story in regards to another pastor. And so what happened to her, she's deceased now. And so she would eat, she was trying to get over this depression that she was having as a child. There's some things that happened to her. And so I don't want to get into all of that, but there were some things that she encountered when she was a child. So sometimes you would see her, she would be little. She would stick to exactly what it was that she needed to do so she could be able to train her congregation of how to be healthy. But later on, because of these issues that she was wrestling with on the inside of some things that occurred with her as a child, these eating patterns came back. So we want for you to be able to share. And also that's going to be a question for Gigi too, as to how can women overcome that? How can they overcome that stigma? You have people that are in high positions in ministry and they cannot overcome the fact of where they are because of some challenges, you know, domestic violence, you know, rape. I'm just going to go on and put it on out there. I said I wasn't, but because of some things that they have encountered when they were children. And so every time it comes back to them, they go right back to that eating pattern, even though they're trying to stay healthy. They're trying to stay away from the meat. They're trying to stay away from I don't know, I still do eat chicken and fish, but I'm trying to maintain that vegan simply because of the fact it plenishes the on the inside. So tell us what would be some tips that you would like that you could share with women that are struggling in that area where they're trying to fight against, you know, I need to put this fork down with this, you know, this big beef roast, but then now these problems keep coming back to me as a child, so now I'm going to eat it anyway.
Yeah, that's big, Diane. And, you know, thank you for sharing all those testimonies, because it's a common struggle. And I think what has happened is, and I think this is for the church to even acknowledge, is that we have used food in replace of God, right? And so when we have been trying to heal certain things, we've been using food instead of reaching for God. And so one of the core philosophies that Gigi and I developed, we have a Prayer for Your Health challenge. We actually have a Healthy Christian Woman boot camp coming up that is embedded in these core principles. And it's 4 core principles. The first one is developing a God-centered identity around your health. Because a lot of times as women, let's face it, we're chasing the black dress, We're chasing to look good. A lot of times it's superficial. But if we could get deep where we get a God-centered self-image when it comes to who we are, that we are wonderfully and fearfully made, that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, not just knowing it intellectually, because we all know it, we've all read the scripture, but understanding that on a soul level, so that our fork becomes sacred now, our plate becomes sacred when we get that real deep understanding. And that's number one. And then number two of the core principle is we have to break our addiction to food.
Okay.
Bam. Number one, we have to acknowledge that that it's even a thing, that we are addicted to these foods. And we know we are because when we ask to take it away, when the doctor says you've got high blood pressure, you're divided, and we're asked to take it away, we don't. And even in spite of those things. And so that's an indication that we are. And then the third principle is breaking generational patterns of poor health.
Absolutely.
Because what happens is we have this idea, and Gigi will go into this a little deeper, that, well, my mother had high blood pressure and I thought this, and so my grandmother had, it's just something I have. And we don't realize that we're not passing on genetics, we're passing on habits. We're passing on behaviors, we're passing on recipes, and that's what's killing us. And then the last core principle is being able to have the courage to take action. When we hear these things, when we know that our bodies are the temple of God, when we know that God wants us healthy, we have to have the courage to act, and not just to know it intellectually, but to act on it. And so I think those are the four principles that we use to guide women along that journey to start making the connection between their health and their purpose. I think a lot of times we think being healthy is just a personal goal. Like, I just need to get skinny. I want to get back into those jeans. And don't get me wrong, we're ladies. I want to get back into my jeans too, all of that. But at the end of the day, ultimately, as children of God, we have to be healthy for our purpose, because all of us have a divine plan. And if we're on meds, and if we can't have the energy to fulfill our purpose, if we're dying before the age that we were called to, along with the number one cause of death, if we're, in pain and arthritis and mentally not clear, how can we fulfill our purpose?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Gigi?
Yeah, I would just add that, the second principle around breaking our addiction to food, it's a battle. It's a war. We're actually in a war, like as people, as humans, as women, as Christian women, because these foods are designed to get us hooked. They're designed for, there's in business, so I was in the business world for 22 years. There's this thing called a recurring revenue stream. Okay. And so and this is what gets, increases shareholder value, helps to pay for large executive bonuses, that if we can get someone hooked on this crappy food, that they will then ultimately get sick, get ill, and then it becomes a recurring revenue stream for the healthcare industry, because then that person has some kind of procedure, boom, that's like $50,000 to $100,000 outlay. Then they're on medications for the rest of their life. Boom, that's that razor blade, where that recurring revenue stream, and you're in this system, you're basically caught up in the system, all the while you're not living out your purpose. Your life is shortened. You're sick while you're living, so you're not feeling good. The quality of your life is diminished. And all why? All for what? Because you're in a system that's basically, fueling more and more of this. And so people are making money off of you being sick. That's the bottom line. And so we really try to really just hit that, breaking your addiction to food head on, because when you come to realize that you're in this game, you then have a choice to make. Am I going to play in this game or am I not?
That's true.
And if I'm not, how do I get out of the game? And so that's what our program is designed to do. We hit you with that question because you have a choice to make. And so your choice is going to be very conscious about whether or not you're going to continue to play in that space or not. And then as far as breaking generational patterns of poor health, there's a quote that, and I don't know exactly who said it. I know Dr. Oz has mentioned it, but he isn't the originator of the quote, but it's your genes load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Wow.
And so you may have a predisposition for a disease, but your lifestyle in terms of your diet, your level of physical activity, and those sorts of things are going to determine whether or not you actually get that disease or not. And so I'm predisposed to high cholesterol, but I'm 50 years old now and I'm not on any statins. I'm not on any medication. My cholesterol is well within the healthy range. And it was because when I changed what was on the end of my fork, boom, I addressed that disease, that predisposition, just through the lifestyle change.
Absolutely, because a lot of times as women, period, we feel that we can quote things away. It's not going to go away, and I think I had ministered that to a church, and we like to we like to quote scriptures, but we don't want to put down the sausage. We don't want to put down, we don't want to put down anything. And so after the doctor had shared with me, which is a very important element, that we should be able to go and take care of our health. So he said, in reference to what you were saying, Gigi, these creators, they put these additives in these potatoes. And I was so shocked when he told me that. He said, yeah, when you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and you get those potatoes, there are certain things that are placed in these potatoes to hook you so you can continue to buy it, so it tastes good. And I was so shocked. And so after that, I think I may have had one more bowl of KFC mashed potatoes, but not a whole lot. So that's the reason why I'm trying to work on my health. Just had a surgery back here about 2 months ago, and that was life-changing for me too. And I said, okay, wow, okay, so this flattened my belly, my weight went down, and I don't want to go back to the pounds anymore. And so when I went to the doctor, he was like, oh, your blood pressure is 106 over something, and I was just so happy. So I feel that when we do the proper dieting that we should, and we have to take the meats out. We're going to have to eventually take it out, because that is the number one factor that they are saying now that contributes to the colon cancer. That's what they're saying, that these steaks and all of these types of meats that we're eating. So the next segment we want to talk about some foods that women and men can be able to eat, because we're going to share this on a lot of platforms, so men may grasp it too. So share with us. We're going to go with Sersie. What type of plant foods that can be helpful for us to be able to get us out of this trending that we're in of gobbling down everything we see, because we know that the television is the main media that causes us to be tempted to it as well. We don't even have to go to the grocery store. The television will do it for us.
Yeah, and the cell phone does it for us too, because we're online. But yeah, I mean, it's really the plant kingdom. It's eating a whole food plant-based diet. And Gigi will get more deeper into this, but the idea is not just about being vegan, not eating meat, because not eating meat is only half the battle, but it's also what you eat in the plant kingdom. Are you eating the food in its most whole form? Right. And so instead of having, you could process an apple right down to a fruit roll up, but you want to eat the actual apple, right? And so you want to eat the food in its most intact. So you're talking about fruits, you're talking about vegetables, you're talking about legumes, you're talking about whole grains, you're talking about nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. There is millions out there, millions of beans, millions of grains that we haven't even touched the surface of. And a lot of people feel like Gigi says that you're going to be somehow limited, but you're talking about especially your leafy greens. You're talking about kale, Swiss chard, you're talking about arugula, lettuce. We could go on and on and on, but there are so many options out there to eat. Gigi, I'll have you.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about whole plant foods, and as Sersie said, kind of in or close to their most natural state, it's really about eating a variety of them and eating the rainbow, if you will. So that means when we think about like a salad, it used to be like this little saucer with like these couple pieces of iceberg lettuce and a mushy tomato. That's not a salad. That is not a salad. So, I eat salads I have to use a mixing bowl to eat them because they're so big.
Okay.
And that is my meal. And what do I put in it? At the base, it's some sort of a leafy green, like a mixed baby greens or kale or romaine or arugula. I'll put in other greens like some shredded collard greens, just raw collard greens, and then just a rainbow of things. I'll have cucumbers, tomatoes, red bell pepper, orange bell pepper. I'll have purple cabbage. I'll have jicama. I'll have different beans in there, like chickpeas, for example, or I'll throw in some lentils. And I'll have maybe some quinoa or brown rice or even black rice, and then whatever sauce I'm going to use. I mean, really, the possibilities are limitless in terms of what you can eat. Okay. And that is the dominant, like that is my dominant source of calories in intake. And keep in mind, I mean, I work out at a pretty aggressive level because I like I mentioned earlier, I'm a competitive bike racer. So I burn a lot of calories, but I eat a lot, and I eat a lot of whole plant foods. In addition to that, you know, you could still eat things like pizza. You could still eat things like burritos and enchiladas, and you can have Buddha bowls and all these other things. And it's because you basically replace the bad foods with the good foods. And so what's unique about eating whole plant foods are really three things. It's the fiber, it's the antioxidants, and then the phytochemicals, which are beneficial compounds that have been shown to be anti-inflammatory, stop free radicals. So those are healing foods. They heal your gut. They heal you at a cellular and a tissue level. These are these whole plant foods that I'm talking about.
Okay.
And when you're eating that, and at the same time eliminating the meat and the pro-inflammatory foods. So meat, even poultry and other animal products like dairy can promote inflammation in the body. And they can also be mutagenic, which means they can promote cancer growth. And that's where you were talking about, you know, meat, especially processed meat, being implicated as a cause of colon cancer. So when you're eating like Daniel, we'll bring it back to the Daniel fast, or eating like Daniel, period, you're both adding foods that are promoting health at a cellular and tissue level, and with your microbes, the microbiome in your gut. And at the same time, you're taking away all those pro-inflammatory foods. You end up feeling fantastic. You know, you actually reverse disease, you lose the weight, you reverse the high blood pressure, you lower the cholesterol, you lower the risk of cancer. And you're gaining this energy and getting this mental and spiritual clarity. And so that is why it works. I mean, there's science behind it. I mean, Sersie talks about this, that Dr. Greger, who's another lifestyle medicine expert, said that the first clinical trial was the Daniel fast, which showed that a whole food plant-based diet is restorative to health.
Okay. Wow. So now when it comes to plant based food, now we know that some grocery stores may offer these certain foods like the patties or what have you that's not ground beef. So how effective are they versus where someone perhaps maybe can be able to get these items at a food market?
Yeah, I would say, I would say that some people like to use those as transition foods, but I mean, for me, I would just say try to get through it without using those, only because they're not necessarily healthy. I think the one thing it does do though, and I had this problem when I was telling you my story early on, is it gets you over the fear of not eating meat and animal products. So if you have this mental fear, like I'm afraid to not eat meat, which sounds crazy, but that is like a fear. I don't think people consciously think about it that way, but I think that's what's underneath the reluctance to not eat meat, is a fear of not eating meat. I think those products kind of help with that. It helps you to get over that fear. But as far as helping you to restore your health, they're not going to help you do that.
Right, right. I kind of felt that they were something there as maybe like something that where it can be able to help an individual to transition from meat to as a vegan or what have you. So I kind of felt that, but I said, no, wait a minute. I said, if I pick this up, I said, what do they may have? What it may be, included in these ingredients from like Walmart or perhaps wherever they serve like vegan burgers and what have you. And I'm like, I better stick with the homegrown organic type of way of doing things. So Sersie, you had a comment on that?
Well, I was just going to say that, you want to stay out of the box as much as you can. You want to eat living, live foods. And I think that's the principle. It's not to say you're not going to have something here and there, but your bulk of your food should be foods that you don't have any ingredients to read. Half the time when we're reading ingredients, we don't even know half of what's on that box. But when you pick up a wholesome apple, there ain't nothing to read. It's just an apple. One ingredient. And so if we can get our minds around falling in love with real food, then we are not going to be chasing those things. And I agree, it is a transition, but once you get over to the other side, and this is what is so powerful with the Daniel fast and where Gigi and I have seen this, is that the Daniel fast is a wonderful way to kickstart that journey. And that's why we have the Daniel fast, a bridge to healthy living, because if you do the Daniel fast, if you keep on going, it could be a bridge into that lifestyle. A lot of times we read the life of Daniel, we see Daniel being a prophet to the church. You read the book of Daniel now, he's still prophesying to the church. Now you see him in the lion's den. You've seen him in all of the amazing things that Daniel has done in his life. We forget the fact that he honored his temple, and that is what made him, when you looked at when he did the diet and then he compared himself to the friends, and they said that he was above 10 times. It had something to do with what he ate. And so when we look at the purpose and the call that was on Daniel's life, what if he ate the king's diet? Do you think Daniel would be doing all that he has done? He would not have. And we have to begin to realize that we are a Daniel in this day. We have things to do that God wants us to do. Just like Daniel had his legacy, we have ours, and we need to change what we put on the end of our fork so that we can live out our destiny as Daniel did. How different would Daniel have been had he just sucked himself into the king's diet? Would he have been the Daniel that we know today? I beg to differ.
Absolutely. And I feel that that's the reason why individuals, and I'm not going to say just the churches, I'm pretty sure there are other entities that may use this, because even if it started off with chapter 1 with the Daniel fast. It didn't say anything about the, as you stated, it didn't say anything about the lions didn't say anything about these dreams that he had. It started out with him in his diet. He told the kings, no, we're not going to eat this stuff. You go in there and let us not eat it, and then see how our countenance is going to look compared to these other guys, and how your face look puny and what have you. And I do believe that water is a replenisher of the skin and of the body as well, that we could be able to come in and purify some things. So how often, this is going to be the next question that from both of you, how often should we do the Daniel fast? I know people just, sometimes we can be doing things and it can turn into a ritual. Everybody goes to it at the first of the year. Is this something that we need to work on? Because I'm sure that he just didn't temper his body in chapter 1. I'm pretty sure that this is something that Daniel continued throughout his diet, of way he ate. He wanted to please God in his body and what he put and preserved in it. The Bible says he was an excellent man.
Yes.
That's what it says. So share with us how often you think that would be preferable for us to be able to do as the Daniel fast.
I say, and this is just my radical opinion, Gigi can say hers, but I say, in the perfect world, we should do the Daniel fast once and never turn back. That's how I see it, because at the end of the day, the Daniel fast was never meant, because when you look at Daniel's life, it was never meant. Now we have modified it to make it into a 30-day experience, and then go back to our old ways. And then January, after we've messed up and we've eaten everything we could possibly eat, we come back January, we make it this ritual of eating wrong for 11 months, knowing that we got that 1 month in January that we could redeem ourselves.
Right.
But I say that the Daniel fast, if it's making you feel well, if it's the diet that reverses the number one cause of death, if it allows you to maintain weight, if it allows you to prevent cancer, if it allows you to be replenished and have energy and mental, spiritual clarity, if it allows you to do that, if it allows you to live out your purpose, if it allows you to live on this optimal level as a Christian, then why is it not the diet of choice?
Right.
That's all the question I have. Why are we choosing the substandard diet? Why are we, like Daniel, we as Christians should be standing out in our time that they're like, why are those Christians 10 times more healthier? Why are those Christians 10 times more smarter? Why are we dying at the same rate as everybody else? So I think the Daniel fast should be something that should be our goal, to say, how can I eat like Daniel all year? That is what the Daniel fast of British Healthy Living is all about. We are there to transition you to start with the Daniel fast and make it a lifestyle, your forever lifestyle.
Okay, and I also agree with that too, because I would think that if I'm starting something and then I go back to the same pattern, well, then it's gonna decipher what it is that I'm trying to achieve as I get. Because some people use it as, well, we want to hear from the Lord. Well, I want to hear from the Lord every day, not just 21 days or 30 days of the month. It's ridiculous. Okay, Gigi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add other than, what we do with our program is we help you learn how to do it the right way.
Okay.
There's certain things nutritionally that you need to understand. Questions come up about, hey, I don't feel full, I'm always hungry. So we help break down this concept around calorie density and variety. There's also questions about protein. Am I going to get enough protein? And so we get into like the nutrition science around that. Okay. And then also just, micronutrients, are there some things we should supplement with, if we're going to make this a lifestyle? So we get into all those details in our program because they're important to make sure that you're doing it right. I mean, Sersie and I have been doing this for 10 plus years. Like me, it'll be 10 years coming up here, Sersie over 10 years. Wow. And so, in order for us to do this and sustain it and still, be able to, live out our purpose and everything, there's a way to do it right and a way to do it wrong or not right. And so that's what we do. We make sure that if it becomes a lifestyle, that you're doing it the right way in terms of all those other, questions and nuances that come up.
Okay, great. So now you all have also a podcast, and this question is for Sersie. And so what are some of the takeaways that you want the audience to grasp from what it is? I know that you speak about the Daniel fast. I know our body's supposed to be healthy. So if a listener that does not know anything about the podcast, what would you tell them today? What are some of the takeaways that you want them to leave with after they have listened to your show?
Okay, well, the title starts there because the title of the podcast is called Healthy for My Purpose.
Okay.
And I think the biggest takeaway is to gain all of the skills that Gigi's talking about, is how to execute and eat a whole food plant-based diet in the right way, number one. But ultimately, behind it all is how you can make a paradigm shift and start seeing your health as a spiritual practice. Start seeing your plate, your fork, what you put into your body as a holy act. Okay. And that is what we want you to walk away with, because when that shifts in your brain and you realize that your fork and what you put in your mouth is a holy act, it shifts the way you do business. Because we know as children of God, we want to serve God. We want to do the right thing. We are always seeking that. The only problem is that we took faith off the kitchen table. And so we need to bring faith back to the kitchen table so that we can feed our families, not just us, feed our families, feed ourselves in the way that honors God, so that ultimately we can live out our days You know, we could be, you know, like these prophets that God can call them at 60 and you're okay. God can shift your
That's
purpose
right.
at
That's
60.
right.
And you know what? I'm calling you to fly to Africa at
That's
60,
right.
but you're like, God, I can't go because my blood pressure is too high and I'm not feeling, but God could call you at 70 and shift
Right.
you, that you can live every single day of
That's
your
right.
purpose on earth. So that whenever God decides to use you, you can be used, and you don't have to call in sick and say, God, I'm calling in sick on my purpose, but you can live out your purpose in God to your fullest potential. Because let me tell you this, that is, sometimes we don't realize that there's a back door that the enemy has to the church.
That's right.
The enemy, they ain't no horns on Frito chips. There's no horns on processed meat. But let me tell you that the enemy has investment. He has stocks in us eating those foods. Because when we eat those foods and it makes us feel good, number one, he knows that we will use those foods instead of God because it's giving us the high that we really don't realize. So we're using the food instead of God. So he's like, okay, great. Food can become an idol.
Right.
See, he's giving us modern day idols and we're biting the bait. We're taking the bait, right? And so number one, and then number two, he's like, you know what? The number one cause of death is heart disease. So if she dies early, that's good business for me, because everything that he had stored up in her, all the souls he had that she was supposed to witness to, everything that God had them to do to change and affect the world with your footprint, she's going to be cut off early. So I'm good with that too. And so we have to realize that this is a plan of the enemy. And this is why Gigi and I developed, we're actually coming out. Those of you who are interested, you can get on the wait list. We're coming up with a Healthy Christian Woman Boot Camp, because we realize that you got to prepare for war. You got to reclaim your health. You got to fight back. This is a fight back thing. And this is a spiritual warfare thing. We take food lightly because we eat it morning, noon, and night. But this is a spiritual warfare because it has us hooked. It has us using it as an idol. You see what I'm saying? It has us giving up our purpose. It has us compromising in so many areas.
That's right.
And God wants us to fight back and reclaim our health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when you was making a statement, there was a lady that she had passed away, and you know, and I know sometimes it's just to the fact that some individuals may not know any better. And sometimes people don't even want you to tell them any better. And so he was like, when he announced her death, she was at our church, at this particular church. I'm not a member there no longer, but she was at this church. And so she was there 3 months before. And so he got up and announced that she had passed away. He was like, we don't know. We don't know when the Lord is going to take us. I'm like, wait a minute. No, you just said the wrong thing. No, you said the wrong thing. The Lord don't take anything. You know, that was Job that was the one that was complaining. We got to make sure we know how to read and interpret the scriptures. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. That was him complaining because he was going through something. But no, this lady was totally overweight. She was about 400 pounds. She took her own self away. And of course, he gave me the mic and allowed me to preach the following Sunday. And of course, I ran that thing all the way down. No, the Lord don't take away anything. We, as you stated, the enemy, just like we have ROI investments. We invest in stocks. We invest in different things for the future. The enemy will invest in us too. I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna put this temptation in her of all of these meats and all of these foods and things that she don't supposed to be buying. And guess what? I'm gonna give her a raise on her job so she can be able to do it. He got investments and plots set up. So no, I corrected that. This lady was a powerful traveling evangelist. No, God didn't do that. She did that because she did not make the right choices when she was eating and what she was putting in her body. I'm sorry. So of course, when we try to help individuals to be able to see that, and they have had a pattern for years, and it perhaps maybe have to take for us or some to go to the doctor to be able to understand. So that doctor woke me up that day. And so I'm not trying to pick up these pounds. I'm not trying to pick up any of these things. I have to still watch my little intake with the salt, and I'm trying to get rid of that as well. But you know, this kind of struck me pretty good when you all had wanted to be a guest, on the show. And I said, okay, this is something that all of us need. We got to rebirth our mind. We have to renew our mind when it comes to wanting to live healthy and wanting to be able to do the right thing. Gigi, go ahead. You can come in.
No, I'm just absorbing what you're saying. I think that we're very passionate about what we do. And I just want to point out that Sersie and I met in the middle of COVID, in the middle of a pandemic, over Zoom. Okay, so I'm in Washington State, she's in Florida, and this is a total God connection. We both had this radical empathy around people of color being most affected by COVID complications and death. And what we learned was that it's not race-based, it's disease-based.
Right.
It's disease risk-based, not race-based. It's just that we felt like we had the solution to the problem. And the solution is to just eliminate the disease, take the disease out of the equation, and you address that COVID risk. Well, Sersie and I got together virtually, and we created this program called Daniel Fast Bridge to Healthy Living. And about a year, like right before we actually met in person, you got to understand, we like created this all virtually over Zoom. Like we hadn't met like face to face. I mean, it was like after a year of doing this with her, we started asking questions like, how tall are you? Like, because we didn't know. And so we got together right before we got together for the first time in July 2021, which was just last year.
Okay.
She sent me a video of her son who passed away. And it was the collage of pictures of just kind of leading up to his funeral. And it got to the funeral video, or like when he passed away, and he passed away on my birthday, June 18th. And I got chill. I still get chills just saying it out loud, that this is a God connection. Like, we were 3,000 miles apart. We connect over Zoom. I learned that her son passed away on my birthday, that then led to her doing the Daniel fast, and then us coming together.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are on a mission. We are on a mission from God to help women take control of their health and to live out their purpose.
Absolutely. And to be able to also help them or help all of us. I have not gone totally vegan. I'm telling you, I'm working on it. I'm still with the fish and the chicken, but the rest of the stuff is already gone. It's been gone for about a year. So now, how effective, because I use these items too. And so we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. How effective is HelloFresh? Because HelloFresh, when I receive those items in the delivery, they appear to be very, very organic. They do. And so I don't even go to the part where it says, oh, you can order this. No, I just want specific vegan. So I may have something like a wrap, and it may have like mushrooms in it, bell peppers. I'll cut all of them up, and then it'll have another bag, and I'll go in there and open up the other bag and get whatever is in there, the onions, and I'll cut that up and also put it in the wrap as well too. So, and I know a lot of individuals have conversed to HelloFresh and Hello Shelf, and I think it's another one out there that's called Thrift Market that's very, very popular. The Nut Family or something like that. Now, I've ordered some things from there as well, but they send so much. It'd be so much in there, it'll take you about 2 or 3 months to eat it. So I haven't ordered anything from them in a while. So we just want to be able to share a little bit about the online products and how effective they are for, I'm serious. You got me kind of choking up over here. I am sorry about the loss of your son. I am, Sersie. So tell us how effective that is. About how we can be able to also win through the grocery that is online.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Gigi.
Yeah, I was just gonna, first of all, we don't necessarily endorse a specific delivery product.
Okay.
My guidance would be to just read the ingredients, you know.
Okay.
We have a recipe website called Daniel's Plate, and these are all whole food, plant-based, Daniel fast compliant recipes
Okay.
that, you know, Sersie and I eat on the regular anyway. So I would say, you know, the degree to which you are able to just make your own food, then you can control what goes into it. If you
Okay.
are, you know, wanting to do some sort of a delivery service, I would just say read the ingredients, you know, not just the nutrition facts label, which is important, but also the ingredients that are in it. So if they're sending, you know, I know some of them, I looked at some of them a while ago. Some of them will have like the Impossible meat products and Beyond Meat burger products and stuff like that. Not necessarily, you know, going to help you reverse your disease if you have one. But, you know, and those products, keep in mind, a lot of those products weren't developed necessarily to improve your health. They were developed to for environmental reasons, environmental footprint reasons,
Okay.
as well as, you know, animal ethics reasons. So you've got, you know, people who go vegan because you know, they're saving the animals or wanting to, you know, not harm animals.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, that was one of the motivators for me having a rescue dog. It was like I was starting to have a difficult time seeing the difference between eating a dog and eating a pig. You know, it was just kind of like, why do I have this cognitive
Oh.
dissonance? And so it just kind of, but anyway, but it's not for health is the point I'm trying to make. So
Oh, okay.
read the ingredients, and if it's made with whole plant foods like Sersie talked about, is it an apple, you know, is it, you know, romaine lettuce, is it, you know, or is it made with a bunch of like processed things that are made in a plant, not a plant but made in a plant, a manufacturing plant, then it may not necessarily be serving you health wise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're still getting education on today.
Yeah,
Okay.
and part of it too, I think it's also it's being healthy is almost like a little side hustle for yourself. It's a part-time job. It's something you almost have to carve out. You know, Gigi and I, we just launched a meal prepping membership thing, and it's about carving out the time to cook, carving out the time. You have to kind of make that investment. But I think, yeah, if you're very strapped for time, is you have to be very strategic by looking on what's on the label. But ultimately, you know, Gigi and I preach is to get people back into their kitchens, to fall in love with food again, to because there's so many convenient, easy ways that you can make healthy, sorry, I'm sneezing,
No, that's fine.
healthy meals that you can make that won't take you so much time, that are not difficult, that are easy. And sometimes I think when we talk about healthy food, people get overwhelmed because they think, one, it's going to be more expensive, but it's actually cheaper. Two, they think it's going to be overly complicated, but it's even more simple. Three, they feel like I'm not going to eat as well, but you actually eat better. So it's about demystifying all of those myths. And the baseline is fall in love with real food, get back into your kitchen, roll up your sleeves. And, you know, it's like when we go and do our nails. We know our nails gotta look fly, right? We know that. We do our nails, we do our hair, we book our hairdresser appointment sometimes 2 months out. Let's keep it real.
That's right.
But Gigi's not into that, but I'm into that. So so Gigi's like, say what? No, you book 2 months in advance, you get your nails done, you have all these appointments.
That's
We
right.
need to realize that self-care, the number one self-care ain't even in the hair, it ain't in the nails, it ain't in the makeup, it ain't in the clothes, it's in your kitchen. So the same way you schedule in that time for that hair appointment and those nails appointment, you need to say, you know what, Sunday from 2 to 4, I'm meal prepping for the week. Wednesday, I'm doing this. Whatever is my grocery, you need to maneuver it like your life depends on it, because it does.
It does.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Because even with I mean, I'm gonna say this, you know, we looked at Food Network and we saw how it went down with Paula Deen. some issues that came up, and because you concealed the fact that you perhaps, I don't know if it was the ingredients we're putting in there. That's the reason why I stopped watching Food Network, some of the programs, simply because of the fact is, as you stated, it's the ingredients. And so the people went, ballistic. They did, because, hey, look, you got this issue and you're teaching us how to craft these meals, and you got this issue with diabetes, and then now all of a sudden you hiding it and concealing it from us. Now she had to go to close, which we're not here judging. I'm not here to judge that, but it's very, very important that you pay attention, that you're following the diet. Don't follow the people. You follow the ingredients, as you all are, sharing with us today on the program. You follow the ingredients, and even, sometimes we don't like to invest. I know I don't. When I get that box that comes in on the porch and what have you, I'm like, oh, I got to cut this up. I got to cut. We don't like to stretch. We don't like to be critical cookers or critical thinkers. We don't want to be able to stretch that, but it's very, very important. And so that's the reason why I allow it to continue to come until I absorb it, until I get to the point that this is something that is good for me. I don't want to do it. The things that we don't like, we feel that that's the worst thing that's for us, but that's the best thing that's for us. And so it's very, very important that we know what it is that we're putting inside of our body. I was watching something with the USDA some years ago, and they were sharing, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, how long that it took for the meat, after they slaughtered the meat, how long it actually took for it to be able to reach to the market. And it was a long time. They keep it red because they're spraying it down with chemicals. And even at that time, God was still trying to show me something. But you know what? I tuned it off. I didn't pay any attention. I got up, continued to put my clothes on to get ready for work. He allowed me to hear that early in the morning. Of course, they're not going to have it on 5 o'clock news or 12 o'clock news or The View or anything like that, because that's going to be like too much like right? Because they don't want people to stop eating meat. But this gentleman was sharing on the program, and they were giving him challenging questions. It was a long time. I'm not going to say it on this broadcast, but it wasn't a few days. I know that, of how long it takes from the slaughter table, from them killing the animal to getting to the grocery store. It was a very long time. It's just the freshness of it comes from chemicals that they are spraying. So we all need to, that's just something that I'm going to say, I'm going to be taking even more aware of there. Okay. So the last question is, we want you to be able to share with the listeners how they can be able to find you all, how they can be able to reach you, how they can be able to reach your podcast. There are any publications that you all have written, you all can be able to share that with the audience right now, and we'll be able to start with Sersie.
Okay, so I'll start with some of the things. If I miss anything, Gigi, you can catch me. First of all, our podcast, you can find it on iTunes or any platform. It's called Healthy for My Purpose, just that. We also have a website called Daniel Fast, A Bridge to Healthy Living.com. Daniel Fast, A Bridge to Healthy Living.com. And there you can find a blog. We have a blog that has tons of articles on what you can eat on the Daniel Fast, how your faith can be your superpower for health. We have tons of articles and resources on that blog. And we also have a Facebook group with thousands of women that are on this path, and it's called Daniel Fast to Healthy Living, and it's on Facebook, and you could join that group, and we have a ton of stuff going on there. We have a live cook and chat that we cook once a month. We have a prayer for your health that we do as well. A lot of exciting things in there. We also have a journal called A Prayer for Your Health. So if you're someone that wants to do a devotional where you start to dig deeper into your health and you're doing the Daniel Fast, we have that journal, A Prayer for Your Health book as well. And Gigi could talk about what we have coming up the pipe with the boot camp, meal prep, and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So other thing I would just add, we have the recipe website called danielsplate.com. So if you go to danielsplate.com, there's right now a salad in a jar recipe that we recently posted with this amazing green goddess dressing. You have to try. It's so good. Yeah. And as Sersie said, we have a boot camp coming up in the spring, and so we'll be sharing. You can join the wait list. So if you just go to Daniel Fast to Healthy Living, or healthyformypurpose.com. You'll see some information about that, and you can get in touch with us. So, but the boot camp is basically a 4-day experience where we're going to go live nightly, and it's going to be transformative. We share in a step-by-step manner a proven method, you know, in terms of not just that, you know, ourselves, you know, is being transformed by it, but other women in our program. We have a really powerful testimony by a woman who reversed her diabetes, lost weight, and, you know, basically has kind of reclaimed her purpose in a very inspirational way. So lots of great testimonies, lots of great resources, powerful sermons by Sersie, and me offering all the nutritional insights to help you understand, you know, what's going on in your body, and hopefully helping people, Christian women, live out their purpose as well. So that's coming up.
Okay, great. So ladies, we would like to thank you so much for taking the opportunity to be with us on today. You all have downloaded a lot of information into us, and also to be able to be impactful to our audience. This is so, so wonderful. And so when I get up after the show, of course, I'm going to the grocery store, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to be looking at the ingredients. That's important, because sometimes things that we eat, oh, I want that again. I'm going to go get me another helping, another serving. That's the reason why they put it in there, for you to go back and get another serving, another helping. And so it's money for them, as Gigi stated. It's a revenue impact. And so these resources and tools were very, very important. And I thank you also for taking the time out to be our guest on today. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Be blessed.